Today's episode is sponsored by Select Savory Seasonings. Have you ever noticed that most barbecue rubs on the market use sugar as the first or second ingredient? Worry no longer. With Select Savory Seasonings, they offer fresh, gourmet, small batch, sugar-free and additive-free seasonings and spices to help you make good, tasty food that is good for you so that you can lose weight, get healthy, and feel amazing. Check them out today at selectsavory.com and use coupon code PODCAST to receive 15% off your first order.
Hello, everybody. Welcome back to the Simple Low Carb Lifestyle Podcast. Today I've got a friend of mine, Adam Schaeuble, on the podcast. He is the host of the Million Pound Mission, which I'm sure you're wondering what in the world is a Million Pound Mission. So we'll talk about that a little bit today and we'll go from there. So Adam, thanks for joining us. How you doing today?
Corey, man, I am fired up to be here. I'm excited. I'm excited for you and your show launch. I am wondering what it took you so dang long to get your own podcast up and running. I know you've been on my show before, so you got some experience with it. So yep. I think that you are definitely due to get your own show out there. And I'm pretty pumped that you're doing it.
Yeah, it's one of those, something finally just hit like anything else. And I'm sure we'll discuss that. With anything in life, there's always that, as a friend of mine who put it, you have a C moment. It's a significant emotional event that's it. I've got to do something. And it wasn't really that dramatic in this case, but it's just like, you know what? That's it. I've talked about it for a year now. It just needs to be done. And so here we are with the Simple Low Carb Lifestyle Podcast. And my goal is to help people who are sick and tired of being sick and tired and show them how to lose weight, get healthy, and feel amazing. Yeah. And you're here to help along with that journey.
Yes, sir. Let's fire up the machine and get after these people, man. I'm excited to be here.
I appreciate it. Let's just start with you. What's your health journey? I know enough that you were obviously a larger man at one time. You've always been tall. I felt like a little dude next to you at KetoCon when I got a bear hug out of nowhere. But let's start with how you got into a low carb keto and why you did that and how it's helped you out along the way.
Yeah, well, my journey actually really starts from the low point back in 2007. I was 327 pounds and feeling kind of depressed and my life wasn't going the direction I'd hoped. My relationships, my business, career, all that stuff. I was like, man, I'm 27 years old at that point. I was like, man, I thought things would be a lot different than where they're at right now. And I decided that for things to change, I needed to change. For things to get better, I had to start taking personal responsibility, quit pointing that finger of blame outward and start tapping myself on the chest and say, all right, this is up to me now. I got to take responsibility for where I'm at and where I'm going to go from here. And I started changing things up. And over the next 5 years, I ended up losing over 100 pounds, which was awesome. But along the way, I started getting people asking me how I was doing it. So I started helping other people, which created a little boot camp program. This is like right in the heyday when boot camps were really starting to pop off and The Biggest Loser was taking off and all that stuff. So it was a very popular thing. So people started asking me. I started renting space around my town. I had I forget what, like a 2003 Ford Explorer. And it was getting about 1 mile per gallon because I would load up punching bags and kettlebells and bands and weights. And I would drive around. I was renting space from a Pilates studio, a martial arts studio, and a yoga studio. Mm-hmm. And I would call people this is before like scheduling software. I would call people that were on my client list the day that I'm supposed to have class. I'd tell them where the heck I was going to be at. And I'd ask them if they were coming or not. And I'd write them on a piece of paper. And so no digital scheduling at all. It was all handwritten. Yeah. But we ended up in that 5 years that I lost 100 pounds with the boot camp program. We ended up helping my hometown, Bloomington, Indiana, lose 35,000 pounds. 15 other people lost 100 pounds along with me, and just pretty darn cool. And that's where the Million Pound Mission really got kicked off. Where we're like, all right, let's see what we can do with this from a global perspective, and let's that's where the podcast started.
That's awesome. I mean, just the fact that you've helped your hometown lose 35,000 pounds is amazing. And to then say, hey, you know what, I need to go further than that. And now, so what I understand the story behind it now, but what's your Million Pound Mission then overall?
Yeah. So once we had all those results locally, I started getting a lot of pressure, positive pressure, peer pressure from friends that were like, you're an entrepreneur now. You got to franchise this. You got to do more locations, and this whole concept, man, it works. And I've never been a fan of the idea of me being a boss of a whole bunch of people. I'm not a good boss. I'm a great solopreneur. I sprint really hard in one direction and everyone else plays catch up. And I realize that about myself now, several years later. But so I was like, no, I don't want to franchise. I do want to make more of an impact. I do want to share what I've learned with the world. And we tried a few different things, and eventually podcasting caught my ear, and I was like, oh, this could be the thing. And so I was like, all right, there are a lot of like podcasts that, and I'm not hating on these people, but I laugh every time I see one. Like I saw one the other day. The guy has a podcast. He's a famous dude. And he's like, my goal is to make 1 billion people smile. And I'm like, well, that's fun. But in my mind, realist, how in the world are you tracking this? Like, how are you accountable to this? Like, what does that even mean? I'm going to make 1 billion people smile. I'm like, that's just kind of fluff. So $1 Million Mission, we're actually tracking it. And our podcast listeners, they listen to the show. We're almost 400 episodes deep now. And they listen to the show, they apply what I teach them, what my guests teach them. They lose weight, they get healthier, they go on the website, they donate their weight loss, and it adds to the tracker. So they are actually going in there. We've got, parameters and safeguards set up with the logging system. Right. So you can enter negative numbers. You can't enter more than, I think, 20 pounds at once. So people can't just put a whole bunch in there or take a bunch away to screw with the system and hurt or help me, depending on how they feel about me. But it's actively being tracked. Like we're at 60,000 plus pounds now donated by podcast listeners. And that is pretty darn awesome. And Corey, I don't know if you've ever donated or not, but I've got a new upgrade where it'll remind you of the old like Atari days. It looks like a Frogger like explosion happens when you donate your weight. You hit the enter button and it's like a Frogger fireworks thing happens, and it's a very Atari level graphics. I think you'd appreciate it.
Yes, that would definitely be a throwback to the childhood days. And yeah, I've thoroughly enjoyed listening to the podcast. I've definitely learned a lot from listening to you and your guests, and I like how you were part of the inspiration for how this one was set up, in that one person sit down and interview per week, keep it around an hour, but then have a short tips and tricks basically episode. And that's going to be, wow, the idea is running through my head. I've got a year's worth of Thursday episodes already ready to go, as you understand.
Perfect. Yeah.
Because there's just so many little things here and there, especially in the low carb community, that it's like, well, this is so complex, it's ridiculous. And it's like, no, just take a step back and learn and listen. Many times it's just listening to your body. Which I think which will definitely be talked about along the way. But great. So you are excellent at mindset. I mean, like we discussed, one of the things that I've said is from listening to, is it Simon Sinek, start with why. And I read his book, listened to his video, and then of course, as you say, your whys have to be bigger than all your why nots. So let's discuss mindset. How does that make a difference in really being successful in this low carb lifestyle?
Well, first off, I think the title of your show is awesome because it's the simple low carb lifestyle, and you're helping simplify things and shortening the learning curve for people. So congrats to you on an excellent show theme. But when it comes to mindset, that's the game to me when it comes to a transformation journey, a health transformation journey, a weight loss journey. The term weight loss is sometimes people like nowadays are like body positivity, don't say weight loss. I'm like, all right. Like, I still think that's a part of the deal. Like, you don't need to have some like target number, like I want to weigh 100 pounds or I fail. That's not good. But being 200 pounds overweight and saying, I love myself, that's good. You feel that you love yourself, but now let's get healthy and optimize yourself. So I like to put that kind of disclaimer out there, but mindset is everything with this type of a journey, because people get so fixated on the diet or the exercise program and the like, I gotta I've done everything, Adam. I've done Weight Watchers. I've done vegan. I've done high carb. I've done low carb, keto. It has to be it. And this has to solve everything forever. I'm like, let's pump our brakes a little bit because, you know, with me, mindset comes down to using the right tool for the right job, Corey. And that's honestly how I look at it. So it gets so campy in our space where people are like, if you're not keto, I unfriend you, you know, and oh, vegan, you can't marry into our family. We're keto. And it's like, it's so weird because it's like, if I need a hammer, I'm going to use a hammer. If I need a screwdriver, I'm going to use a screwdriver. It's the right tool for the right job. And it's okay to switch tools if technology evolves or knowledge evolves. Yep. So that's kind of the first mindset piece to me is we have to take pressure off of ourselves. And the next thing that we do doesn't have to solve everything forever. It doesn't have to be the ultimate solution. It's just the next tool that we're testing out for the current job, the current project that we're working on with our health, with our body. And we have to give ourselves some grace and some buffer and some permission to adapt and tweak and adjust. And that's like the first key mindset piece to me. Does that make sense?
It does. I mean, with my own journey, as I discussed earlier on, is that I'd step on, I'd have that day or that weekend, and it's like I'd step on the scales and I just gained 10 pounds. I'm done. And that's it. I'd throw in the towel. I'd go back to shoving my face with all the junk that caused the pain, the grief, and the aggravation. And I wasted all of that hard effort. And part of that was misunderstanding on my part, in that I didn't gain 10 pounds. I inflamed 10 pounds, literally. And 2 weeks later, it's gone. It's a water retention more than anything else. I mean, my clothes still fit the same, because if I put 10 pounds on, my pants wouldn't fit the same. Yeah. Plain and simple. Until in my case, I finally got to that point that, as we'll discuss, my whys were much bigger than my why nots, as you like to say. It's like, okay, I'm not just doing this because I want to lose weight. I mean, that's how most of us get started, weight loss. But that's not going to sustain you. That's not going to keep you on this journey, because what happens is you like to talk about, okay, you hit your weight loss goal. Now what? In my case, do I want to lose more weight? Sure. But if I don't lose any more weight, great. I am healthier than ever. I am in the best shape of my life. It's the long game. It's the longevity. I want to be 70, 80, 90 years old and still running around having a good time. I don't want to be in the nursing home hitting the button because I need help. And, that makes a big difference if you don't have, and that was a big shift for me, was that mindset and that focus off of just weight loss. Yeah. And focusing on, in my case, it was my wife and my kids and being here for them. Yeah. And it's changed since then, but that makes a big difference.
Well, yeah. You mentioned a couple of times the whole formula that I use is that balancing scale of the why versus the why nots. And my kids are starting to get out of the Lego phase, but when I came up with this concept, they were big into Lego. So I'd be like, imagine 2 Lego stacks. And all you have to imagine is that Y stack just has to be at least 1 brick taller than the stack of Y knots, and not one Y knot, all of the Y knots, because as we know, they'll all happen at once. You will, your work schedule will change. You will have a relationship change. A pandemic will hit globally. The stock market will crash. All the stressors will happen because they're always there. And it's just whether we're paying attention to them or not. So we have to have that why that keeps us going. And a weight loss number usually isn't going to cut it, and it won't cut it forever, because eventually that goes away, because if you do it right, you hit the goal, and then we go, like you said, now what? So you got to go, there's an exercise that I learned from a guy named Dean Graziosi that's called Finding Your Why 7 Levels Deep. So you have your initial why that's kind of like, all right, I'm motivated by this. We have to move from motivation to inspiration. Motivation is have to, inspiration is want to. See the difference there? So finding your why 7 levels deep is, maybe your initial why is to drop 30 pounds or 100 pounds or whatever that number is, weigh 150 or whatever it is. But then we have to go, okay, well, why is that motivating to me? Or why do I need to do that? And maybe there's some sort of like a physician is recommending that you drop that weight so that your blood pressure normalizes or something like that. Okay, well, why is that important? Well, if my blood pressure doesn't normalize, then I'm at risk for stroke and heart attack. All right, well, why is that important? Well, if I'm at risk for a stroke and a heart attack, I may have to be on meds for a long time. Why is this an issue? And then it dives down when you get to that emotional root, when you feel like the tears well up a little bit and you get to that, like, okay, that's the real why. Like, that's what's going to get me out of bed at 5 in the morning for Adam's boot camp class or whatever. Like, because I, as a recovering gym owner, like, I know how it is. Everybody has best intentions. They're like, if I wake up at 5 tomorrow, I'm totally going to the class.
Yep. But
if I don't, we'll see.
It's okay.
Yeah. And body positivity. Still up. I still love myself. All right, cool. So that's the deal, man. Like that, if that why and this is true for any goal. If you suck at New Year's resolutions and they never come true, if they're out the door 3 days into the deal in January, then this is something you really need to work on. This is time well spent digging down with whatever goal. Like if you have a financial goal, if the why isn't big enough, the why not's when, and you're back to spending like you were before or not saving like you were before. So look at any of these goals. That's kind of a nice analysis point to gain some perspective on this, and maybe look at your last like 3 or 4 goals that you were like really into and going after, and then you didn't achieve, and just look at that balance of why versus why not, analyze it, pick it apart and go, all right, how can I do this better? Or how can I drill down to find that root why that will really drive me forward? So that's another great place to spend some time.
Yeah. I mean, it's very beneficial to really narrow it down, like you said, because if we don't have a good reason behind it, I mean, we've all done it. I'm going to because, and yet why? I start with why, even though the speech behind that book is a little bit different, but it's so true. And if we don't have a good reason for it, we'll give in. I've done it so many times in my life, it's not even funny. And it's not just diet related. I've done it with several, just across the board. I only went to college 3 times before I graduated, and part of that was lazy, but we'll leave that alone. But so you also transitioned very nicely into, goal setting, and how does that going to benefit on that simple low carb lifestyle? Because like we've already discussed to an extent, a weight loss goal is beneficial, but what happens when you hit that goal, or how does that help along the way?
So, goal setting is fun. Goal achieving is what we're actually after. And that's that's another big line of delineation. It's like, all right, which side of this line are you hanging out on right now? Are you one of those people that's like, and now the next shiny object that I'm going to start and probably won't finish is boom. Then we love goal setting. We love, okay, this is my new adventure. But then when it becomes boring, like you got to put in the work. When I used to run 8-week boot camps at my gym, the first 2 weeks, crushing it. Yep. Week 3 starts to fade a little bit, the energy. Weeks 4 and 5, I start getting those emails, and they would just say like, about boot camp or boot camp. Like if it was a 1-word email, I know I'm quitting email. Something to share. Yeah. So I'm like, oh, here comes another one. And so those are the people that are just kind of infatuated with the goal setting. The goal achieving is hard, but that's what we're really after. And I feel like the first step is taking personal responsibility, personal accountability of like, all right, I can't point that finger of blame outwards and go, oh, but my work schedule is crazy right now. Oh, but it's the holidays right now. Yep. Oh, but it's a pandemic right now. I can't eat healthy. It's a pandemic right now. I had a guy that said that his wife wouldn't cook him the right meals. I said, hey, 1950 called. They want their mindset back there. So
cook your own supper and be done with it. I mean, come on.
Exactly. Like use the doggone air fryer. Let's go.
Exactly.
So that's the first step, personal responsibility. Then we've got to layer in accountability anchor points. And these are like rocket fuel for your goals. This is support. And when I mention the word accountability, especially with weight loss, especially with a health journey, people run the other direction because they envision Jillian Michaels screaming at them on a treadmill and then like punishing them. Accountability is yelling, it's shaming. And that's not what accountability is. Accountability is support. Accountability is the glue that holds it together. If somebody hires me as the weight loss coach and they want to lose 50 pounds, I'm not holding them accountable to losing 50 pounds. I'm going to hold them accountable to do what it takes to lose 50 pounds.
Yeah.
Big difference. So I'm not sitting there tapping my watch and tapping my foot going, it's been 4 weeks, haven't lost 50 pounds yet. I'm holding you accountable. No, but I will sit there and go, hey, you haven't sent a food report to me in 7 days. Where's that been? That's what it's going to take. You haven't set, drank your water goal for the last 3 days. That's what it's going to take. You haven't, broke a sweat in the last, 48 hours. That's what it's going to take. Those are the things that you need to be held accountable to, the process.
Yeah.
So establishing accountability anchor points in all the major areas of your life, this is the rocket fuel to the goal achieving process. So you got to look at like your work, that you spend a lot of time at work, probably. Maybe you're working from home, but you still have people that you spend time around with work. You have your family, you've got social circles, maybe like a church thing going on, clubs, friends. Look at where you spend most of your time in normal circumstances and try to establish a healthy accountability anchor point in each one of those areas. And you'll probably be responsible for creating that. It probably won't exist. Some workplaces will have like a healthy pitch-in day or something like that, but a lot of them don't. Yeah. So maybe, it's like walking lunch Wednesday, or your buddies that you normally meet for Friday beers, maybe one Friday of the month, it's bike ride, go for a bike ride or play basketball or something like that. At home, one of my favorite things is like a meal prep day, like Sunday grocery shop as a family, meal prep as a family, get the kids involved. Little kids love doing stuff like that. And if you really want the best accountability partners are your kids, like young kids, because they never forget and they love calling the parents out. And that's just how it is.
Very blatantly.
Yes. So little things like that. And obviously if you're at a gym, like gym partner, workout partners, gym friends, personal trainers, things like that. So the typical accountability anchor point situation looks like this. People will hire a coach or a fitness trainer. And when that relationship ends for one reason or another, they're left hanging. They don't have any accountability and they fall all the way back. If stress hits, there's no net there. They're not anchored on as they climb the mountain. They fall all the way down. So it's just like climbing that mountain. You want to establish as many and really seek out and search and get in Facebook groups and get coaches and attend events, make friends, be out and be active in your community, connect with people that have similar goals and establish as many healthy accountability anchor points as possible, because that's what's going to drive you forward. And then really from there, it's consistency over time, low pressure mindset, give yourself grace and buffer, like I talked about before in the journey, but you just don't stop. You don't have to be perfect. You can't have what I call transformation light switch syndrome. You kind of alluded to it earlier, where it's like, as soon as something goes wrong, my schedule changes, or, I had a bad day, light switch off, we fall back to where we were before. We just can't think like that. It's not a pass fail grade when it comes to your health. We got to just keep chipping away and moving forward.
That you got to be talking about how you have those anchor points that when you do slip, you don't fall all the way back to the bottom. I don't remember what it was, but I was watching it was mountain climbing. I just don't remember the name of it, watching with the kids. And it was the only time they could do it was in the wintertime, because come summertime, the ice is gone, the water's flowing, and they had to kill themselves for that short period of time, but they would go so far and that's it. But they always were at that point. They didn't fall all the way back down.
Yeah.
They would go back to where they were and then continue. And then if they slipped and fell, they would have something, literally scaring me to death to watch them slip, fall. But that anchor point grabs them.
Yeah. And
or their support system. They've got that guy down there with that rope around his waist to catch him when he falls, so they don't come up tumbling back down. And in that particular case, kill themselves.
Yeah.
Very, very similar in that, it was as a team, they accomplished the goal. And really, if that's what it takes in and of ourselves. For myself, it was my wife. At one point, she said, hey, you're not eating like you're supposed to. And it wasn't the time to tell me. And I very politely and lovingly said, don't mention it again, because you're going to push me the wrong way. And then finally, wow, it's going to be 3 years ago now, is when it hit. She's like, hey, who can lose 10 pounds the fastest? I'm like, I win. I have 10 pounds, you don't. But it just, for some reason, that's when it hit. I got a wife and kids I got to be here for, and I'm not going to be. And so that was what And along the way, she is my accountability partner.
Yep.
She, when it's obvious if I'm not eating like I'm supposed to, I'll put weight back on.
Yeah.
And over the last 3 years, both of us have had a meal here and there. We know that. But we know, okay, that's it. We're done. Right back at it. It is truly a lifestyle. It's not, oh my goodness, I have to eat this way. We love it. We enjoy it. Like you said with kids, the other day they made their own dinner because they wanted eggs and they wanted to cook it. Go for it. They scrambled them. They made their dinner and they were just ecstatic. They thought it was a great, they think it's great when they get to make supper.
Well, you just look at the name of your show, though, Corey. Like, it's called the Simple Low Carb Lifestyle, not the Simple Low Carb Day or the Simple Low Carb couple of weeks. It's the Simple Low Carb Lifestyle. And we have to. It's an imperfect journey. It's not. I took Corey's advice and now I've lost weight over 8 weeks, but then something happened. I started gaining weight again. Corey's done me wrong? This is supposed to be the fix forever. And it's like, no, there's a lot of twists and turns. It's like the stock market. Yeah. You want the trend to go in the right direction, correct, but being very aware and not in that pass fail, like all in or all out mindset. That's when we waste a whole lot of time and money and effort. Like the most cost effective way to lose weight is to lose each pound once. But very few people actually do that. You know what I'm saying? There's a lot of back and forth. Even myself, once I crossed the 100-pound mark, I relaxed and celebrated a little bit with a few too many cheat meals, and I gained 20 back quick. And then I was like, all right, pump our brakes. Let's move back in the right direction again. So lesson learned. And that's how you win the game. In those moments that you are slipping, you tag in help. You look for assistance. You look for what's worked in the past. How do we get back to that? If you are slipping hard, like I've been really preaching this, Corey, right now with all the stress that's going on in the world. A lot of people have slipped in the last several months and put on a lot of weight. And they're coming back going, I've got to do 75 hard, or I've got to do,
I got to punish myself for my sins.
Yeah, I've got to do a full week-long fast with just water. And they're looking for like the most intense solution to make up ground again. And I'm like, no, this is a time for lowest hanging fruit, so to speak. Even though we're on the low carb podcast. So it's the lowest hanging ribeye on the ribeye tree. We're going to pluck that off and go, what nutrition plan is the easiest for me to comply with right now? What exercise goal and regimen is the easiest for me to comply with right now? Do that, regain my momentum, shift back into positive momentum. And then we can gradually get tougher from there, because you're just setting yourself up to fail and beat yourself up and feel worse if you're like, most intense program ever right now. You're not set up for that right now. Your momentum, that's like if you're on the highway and all of a sudden you realize you're going the wrong direction, you can't just jump your car up and make it land in the correct lane.
Go the other way.
You got to take an off ramp. And that's where the simple solution really hangs out. So that's an important thing. And also we talked a little bit about like the mindset of being willing to tag in people. This is a special shout out to the men out there listening. Male ego is a real thing. And I deal with a lot of guys that are like, I got myself into this mess. I got to get myself out of this mess. And that's not going to serve you well, my friend, my fellow men. So you got to ditch that out. Be willing to get out there and ask for help, because that's the fastest route to where you want to get to. Yeah.
We need to set the pride aside and, say, all right, I need somebody to come alongside me and guide and direct, or maybe just encourage. The direction, but you need that little nudge to keep you going. And also, I wanted to go back to you mentioned goal achieving, and something that crossed my mind is, like you said, we're great at goal setting, but once you start goal achieving, your mindset changes because, I did that. And so you set the next goal. I did that. The more you keep achieving those goals, the more confidence you're going to build up. And so that also helps greatly in maintaining your mindset and reaching those goals, because now I'm not a goal setter and failing every single time. I'm being successful. I'm achieving my goals. That helps out greatly with that mind shift also.
Yeah. I mean, I'm a big Napoleon Hill fan, Think and Grow Rich. The law of attraction. And he talks about having he talks about it in terms of like beams, the faith beam or the fear beam, and which beam are we riding on? Because there's only one or the other. There's nothing in between. And once we start achieving some of those goals, we're in that faith beam of like, oh, I have faith in myself. I have faith in the process. I'm not fearful of this anymore. I can go forward. And like, that's what I really tried to pound into people when I talk to them about their journey is like, some people have lost weight, but then they're just waiting to screw up. Like, when am I going to mess this up? When is it going to happen? Like, and they're on that fear beam, and it's going to happen because that is what they're focusing on. And that's what they're attracting. And you got to be in the normal can really be that mindset of I'm crushing it and I'm kind of always going to crush it because that's how I operate. Something might happen. I adjust, I absorb, I tweak the plan, and I move forward and start crushing it again. That can truly be the new normal if we make it so. That's the key thing.
And there's just so much to that. You have to shift the mindset. A buddy of mine who will be on the podcast later on, he's lost 300 pounds twice. And with the first time he, to borrow a phrase, fell off the wagon, it was hard, and put within 6 months, like over half of it back on. I mean, it was quick. And now he's in maintenance mode for him. He's under 200 pounds and loving life. But again, it was that mindset shift of it. This isn't a diet. It's not a weight loss thing. I need to be here for my family. He in his case, he actually had a letter in his desk or in his dresser drawer because he knew he was going to die, to his family. And he finally, one day when he decided this is it, I need to do this for the right reasons, he burned the letter. Again, nice. Mindset focus shift. And so a little teaser for one that's coming up once we get that one scheduled for everyone who's listening.
Teaser. I interviewed a guy named Mike Giannoulis who was on the Extreme Makeover TV show with Chris and Heidi Powell. And listen to this. Talk about a mental situation. He lost around the same amount, like 200 plus pounds during the show. They do it for like 6 months or whatever. Had the surgery, everything. There was an 8-month gap between when they ended filming and when the show aired. He gained it all back in that 8 months.
Or it aired.
When the show aired at the premiere, he's back where he started. How embarrassing, Wow. And like everybody in his town like sees him and is like, what in the heck happened? And like, but then he got his head straight and now he's back to an all-time best again. But he had to walk through those hot coals, man. Like, that's a hard mental situation. And talk about ego being smacked around. Yeah. Like, that's huge. So yeah, that's it's a big deal. It's a big part of it.
I think part of that is just people don't prepare for the emotional side of this either. It's like a lot of people with the surgery in particular, there's so many changes that food's been your focus your whole life, and now it can't be. Yeah. You can't go out there and order 3, supersized meals and eat them, especially after surgery. You got to eat something no bigger than your fist, and that's your entire meal. Yeah. And they're not used for that. That is a very big emotional swing, and sadly, they find ways to overeat right back to where they were. Yep. So that again, back to that mindset and goal setting and sticking to it. And along with that, motivation. I mean, that's kind of been covered through this in and about different ways. But what are ways you're finding that people use? What motivations are they using to really stick to it and not just making it a diet, but their lifestyle?
Well, I think we can even take a kind of a bigger step out from the nutrition and even the lifestyle. Like, I view this whole thing as a game plan. And I think really strategically, and I think like as an entrepreneur, there are certain metrics that I track. I'm always working from a plan, from a business plan. I kind of scan ahead and I go, okay, here are some things that could put me out of business, but nobody ever does this with their health journey. And we don't think what could put us out of business,
Yeah, that's true.
So I think that having a bigger plan and kind of running our body like we would run a business is super important. That's another big thing that, I talk about on the show a lot. And having a lot of people are worried, like, what diet am I on? And am I off plan or on plan with my diet? I'm really going to beat myself up when I go off plan. And I'm like, it doesn't really matter that much if you're on plan or off plan, because you actually don't have a plan. And that's like the first key step, because a diet, following keto, following low carb, vegan, Weight Watchers, whatever, that is not a plan. That is a nutrition plan. So I'm looking at
nutritional protocol.
Yeah, a nutritional protocol, and that is a part of an overall game plan. So when we talk about motivation and really moving from being motivated to being inspired, the why is a big part of that. But then as we implement, I feel like having a system of like, all right, I've got my nutrition, I got my goals, I know the protocol that I'm going to do. I got my fitness, I've got my goals, I know when I'm going to show up, I'm accountable to that. I like sign up for things in advance, not show up at the last minute. I've got a purpose behind my workouts. Like I know you go buck wild with the bands and like you get after it and like you've got a protocol that you follow. And that's, it's not just like, well, it's Monday. I'm see what I'm going to do. I might do a couple of these and a couple of those. I don't know. So there's got to be a system behind it. And then things like the accountability anchor points. It's huge. You got to have community. You got to have that sense of community. And so having an overall game plan, understanding your danger zones. If you're driving, you can't just be looking at the windshield in front of you. You got to look 2 or 3 cars ahead, and somebody hits the brakes. You see those brake lights coming up. You got to be ready to adjust. And same thing with our health transformation is you got to understand your transformation danger zones. And that's, I talk about one of my favorite terms, the black hole of weight loss doom. That's when people just cover their eyes and hope for the best. Like, every year I lose weight the first 10 months of the year, and then I gain all that back and more during the holiday season. That's weird. Well, hope this year goes better. Probably not. So you have to map that out, and you have to identify, analyze, and plan ahead for those transformation danger zones, whether that is the holiday season, whether it's tax season, whether it's vacation season or whatever. If there's a pit that you keep on walking straight into, you have to solve that situation and build a bridge over it. So that's all a part of the overall game plan. And there's a lot of just comfort in having a base plan to work from with all these different factors, because otherwise we're out there really experiencing decision fatigue. We're in the moment. Oh, what am I going to eat? I'm doing low carb. What am I going to eat today? I didn't go to the grocery. I got to go figure something out. My friends want to meet me out. They're meeting at Taco Bell. What can I get there? I don't know. So that's like 12 decisions right there. Instead of, having it in a game plan. I meal prep on Sundays and Thursdays. I do crock pot on Thursday. I, do the grill and the air fryer on Sundays. I grocery shop on Saturday, and just having a flow. And there's comfort in that. You can lean back on that. Maybe you vary away from it for a week or two, but you have that to go back to instead of just guessing and having this decision fatigue going on, because decision fatigue eats away at our willpower. When our willpower is down, we make bad decisions. We make bad decisions, we gain all our dang weight back. And that's the downward spiral that a lot of us have felt at one time or another.
Or several times in some cases. I'll leave myself out of that one.
Truth.
I mean, basically sum all that up is real simple. Failure to plan is planning to fail. If you don't have a structure in place, going to college, if you actually are going to learn, there's a set schedule that you have to abide by. You have to go to class at this time and read this chapter and study this book, and you follow that procedure. And if all goes well, you graduate in 4 years. You get a piece of paper that says you've worked hard, and so forth and so on. It's the same thing with our health journey. If we don't have a roadmap to follow along that way that we can stick to and look at and look ahead. For me, it was the holidays. Every holiday. Nope, this year I'm going to be good. That cheesecake looks really good. Yesterday I had that. Today, January 1st is right around the corner. A year later and 50 pounds back, it's over with again. Now, it doesn't faze me. It's like, okay, great, you guys can have it. I don't want it. Again, that mindset shift makes a big difference.
Yeah.
And planning ahead, you got friends that like to go out to eat. There's this great thing. It's called the internet, and I've got it on my phone. You're going to Taco Bell, pull up the menu. Oh, I can get meatless, just the ground beef with the toppings and no shell. I'll order that. We do that whenever we go out to eat anyway. Look at the menu ahead of time. Yep. Make the decision before you get there, because you get there, it's going to smell good. You're going to see that bread go by, former nemesis. It's like, once you do plan ahead and consider, okay, this is what I'm going to do, it's easier to stick to that plan than it is to, like you said, just close your eyes and hope for the best. It doesn't
Yes.
work very well. I've tried. I failed every single time.
You end up running right into a wall, and that's never good, Corey.
Man, bloody your nose. It gets all over your clothes, and you got to wash it out. It just doesn't work very well. Also, and then you did mention family earlier, so let's just discuss low carb and family. I know I do that with our family, but it's always nice to hear about from other people about how it works for them and their families, or what they think about doing it as a family, not just as individuals.
Yeah, it's a work in progress for a lot of us, and for me, with my kids, I really take the ownership over. I have to get protein and fat inside their little bodies. Like
Yes.
they will find carbs somewhere, like at school, like in the couch. I don't know where they find carbs. And so I don't have to worry about that. They go and sneak at their friend's house or whatever. So my main game plan around them is like, all right, when we're eating breakfast, we do a lot of like hard boiled eggs. I do all sorts of concoctions with protein powder. I love like the Fat Bomb nut butter packets, keto bricks. My God, like my daughter is a kindergartner. My son is a fourth grader. They both ask for keto bricks, and that
if I didn't hide them, mine would disappear. My kids would find a way to open that package and eat them all in one sitting.
I mean, there's no better endorsement for the keto brick than that right there. Like kids ask for it. So we pack those in their lunch, doing like a high fat yogurt. I like to mix protein powder in a high fat yogurt. That way they get extra protein, things like that. And just, as much whole food meat, as we can. And, we, that's kind of like the base. And as long as we do that, then, and I obviously, having my background as as I call it, a recovering gym owner, we have a very solid physical fitness routine. I feel like with kids, Corey, here's my mindset around kids. It's like investing for retirement. Time is our friend. And if we can instill good habits with nutrition and fitness early on in their life, all those years, even if it's not perfect, it's not like the Ivan Drago kid version, machine program, but it's like my son is in fourth grade. He's a little bit over 5 foot tall. He's 115 pounds. He can deadlift 100 pounds. He can do a pull up. He can do 20 push-ups in a row. Like he's stronger than a lot of like 5th, 6th, 7th graders.
Yes.
And that's going to serve him well. And he doesn't always enjoy like coming down to do the work. Well, he doesn't, if I'm like, hey, it's time to go do our workout. We do 3 workouts a week. And sometimes he's like, he wants to play, Roblox, and he's on the iPad. And I'm like, come on. But once we get going, he gets into it, and he's into like, we have a little mark on the ceiling that with a piece of tape on it. If he can jump up and touch it 10 times in a row with his right hand and 10 times in a row with his left hand, we move it up. And at first he couldn't even touch the beam like 8 months ago. And now he's seeing progress. He's like halfway up the beam. And so little stuff like that is going to motivate kids. And I tell them like the way we eat is a big part of this, man. And so you have to kind of, I feel like you got to show them like, this is why we're doing that. Like when we're on the basketball court and you're 6 inches taller than everyone else, a lot of that is because how we treat your body. Obviously genetics plays a role in that. My dad's 6'7", and he's got 10 brothers and sisters, and they're all over 6 foot tall. So we've got the Viking genetics going, but so that helps. But he could just be a big overweight kid, and he's not. And that's that's a lot because of how he treats his body. And now, as our daughter is going to be she's an explosive athlete, man. She's got some serious pop in her legs. She does like gymnastic stuff. And when I saw her do like a 1-arm cartwheel, I was like, whoa, that was pretty darn explosive there. That was impressive. And we did a broad jump test.
Future Ninja Warrior coming on.
Exactly. We did a broad jump test, and she did the exact same as her brother, who's in 4th grade, and he's a big, tall guy. So like, she's pretty explosive. So I think if you can show kids the why, again, coming back to that, like the why behind the nutrition, it's not just got to eat this because that's the way we eat. You kind of can show them and let them explore their athleticism a little bit. I think that helps.
Yeah. I mean, it for example, is no different than like if you are faithful to church and you're taking your kids, but if you don't give them the why behind why you're going, when they get up and get out of the house, they're not going to go anymore. Nope. I went because mom and dad told me to, and it's the same with our diet and our lifestyle. It's okay. This is why we're doing it.
Yep.
My 5-year-old Samuel he's mini me to the nth degree. If you saw him walk down the street, you'd go, there goes Corey. But he'll be like, sugar makes you fat. Yep. Fat doesn't. That's right. And just instilling that in them that, hey, this is what you need to do. Now they love the sugar, but they're not tempted by it like others are. Yeah. We go to birthday parties. The only reason they want cake is because everyone else has had a piece. It's not because I've got to have cake. They'd rather have those 4 slices of watermelon that they've already had. And we did have a situation where we want cake. I said, well, go get them a piece of cake. Gave them each a 1-inch square. They popped it in the mouth. They're like, great, we had cake. And they went outside to play. Because that's not part of, in their case, we started from day one. So that's just not a part of their lifestyle.
Yep.
And we're teaching them along the way. So that's definitely a good tip for families out there. If you're trying to get your kids to switch over, it's a process. Just like you go through that process with your bodies, you may have to slowly pull things out.
Yep.
You control the food that comes in the house. We used to be a lot more liberal with the fruits. We'd buy bananas and grapes and all the time, and listening to the various people, especially Dr. Naaman, it's like, that's not good for them. So, hey, do we have? No, I didn't buy any. But you know what? We'll buy them every 6-8 weeks, maybe. Here, have some grapes. And it's a treat. That is their dessert.
Yep. That's awesome.
Cake is, do not let them eat cake.
They cannot have their cake or eat it too.
Yeah, exactly. Now, what is your favorite low-carb keto meal that's simple for people out there? Your go-to, I guess, would be. Oh,
we mentioned it, man. We're both newer to the air fryer nation, and
yes,
I've been nerding out over it for the last couple of months, and I do a chuck eye steak. So it's like a steak. I believe it's like pot roast, pot roast meat, but it's sliced thin.
Yep.
And I will do chuck eye steak in the air fryer. Like 12 minutes total, 6 each side, 360 degrees. It is amazing. And I love, you know what I love to put on top of it? Little select savory seasonings, maybe, perhaps. Like the Chipotle. I love the Chipotle one. Like anything is good. And put a little Redmond's salt on that deal. Like that's a great keto base, because the macros for any chuck cut of meat are pretty darn good for keto. Like you're pushing, high 60s to 70% fat right there. And that's awesome. So I'll do that. A little meat and bricks action. Have a peanut butter brick, man. I'm still a peanut butter brick guy. I love it. I don't let my kids eat the peanut butter bricks. They got to go something else. Those are for dad. But yeah, a little meat and bricks action with chuck eye steak and like a half a keto brick.
You do know that after this podcast, Robert owes us, but anyway.
This episode is sponsored by.
He didn't know it yet.
Oh, but no, that air fryer has been a real game changer. It's a time saver. It's a lower energy option. I'm kind of a frugal nerd as well. So it's a lot lower energy than cranking up the oven, and you can do pretty much the same thing.
I just started playing with mine the day before we recorded this podcast, and I just literally took boneless, skinless chicken thighs, seasoned them, wrapped them in bacon, and threw them in. I didn't have a recipe. The only thing I Google searched was time and temp. I was like, oh my goodness. Okay, now what can I cook in here? So I've got like several other things that I went, okay, I'm going to try this, and this. And like tonight, steaks. And I got some treat-ish snack type things from my past that I've got some low carb ways that just never worked well in the oven. But air fryer? Yeah, we're going to give that a try. That'll be part of the Thursday episodes once I get those tried out, so you can, a little teaser to keep listening.
So good. Hit that subscribe button.
Now, granted, we went through a whole lot of good stuff. What's one simple tip that you would give anybody who is either looking into the simple low carb lifestyle or has already started it and is just looking for, something that's real easy for them to latch on to and to help them along on their journey.
Yeah, man, I got it right here for you, brother. Implementation is the key. I love a little phrase I created where I say a sharp axe is no good if we never swing it. So as you listen to podcasts, we're good at learning, but learning and implementation are two different things. So if you've been listening to all of Corey's shows, or if you've listened to my show and you haven't taken action on that, that's your next step. Like, what's that one thing that lit you up from our conversation today? Whatever it is, like that one bell that went off. What I have people do, I call this my implementation alarm challenge. Everybody's probably listening on their phone, most likely. Set your phone alarm for 24 hours from right now and take action in line with that one thing, that big bell that went off, that light bulb that went off. Take action that's in line with that. Don't achieve that. You don't have to accomplish everything in line with that, but just view it like a row of dominoes. You got to flick over the next domino in the next 24 hours. And so set that implementation alarm and take on Adam's implementation alarm challenge and let me know how it goes.
For some reason, it reminded me of the Lord of the Rings. If he never took that first step out the front door, he would have never gone on that adventure.
Exactly.
And it's the same thing with our health and our weight loss journeys. You got to take that first step.
Don't be stuck in the hobbit hole, Corey.
Yes, exactly. Although it was a good looking hobbit hole. Oh,
I'll leave that. I'm going to not say anything.
Thank you. After being on your podcast and talking about striated glutes and everything else, we'll speaking of Robert yet again. So, well, Adam, I appreciate your time. I know you're a busy man with more than one podcast and all your coaching responsibilities and stuff. So thanks for coming on. I know we had a lot of great information for the people here, and it's going to help them out quite a bit.
I appreciate you, and I hope that everybody enjoyed the show, and I look forward to seeing what you go with this podcast, man. I'm proud of you.
Thanks, man. Appreciate all the help.